Sam Bell reporting to Central. Everything running smoothly. Over and out. Rock and roll. God bless America.
Good morning, Sam. Do you want me to cut your hair there?
Lunar Industries remains the #1 provider of clean energy worldwide due to the hard work of people like you.
That is an astronaut.
3 years is a long haul, you know.
I know you're really lonely up there, but I'm proud of you.
2 weeks to go, Sam.
2 weeks to go, buddy. I'm going home. Looks like we got a live one. I'm gonna go out.
Okay, Sam.
Leaving Serang, working perimeter.
Come outside. Who is he? You tell me who that is!
Perhaps you were imagining things.
What's going on? Where did he come from? Why does he look like me?
You've been up here too long, man. You've lost your marbles.
2 weeks. I don't understand what's happening. This is my mind. I want to go home.
I know.
It's time for another Patreon request. This one was on the question regarding the state of science fiction in modern cinema. Specifically, the struggle of newer directors gaining success with bigger franchises while ultimately having to sacrifice their own artistic integrity. This is a common struggle many creators struggle with, the classic conflict between artistic integrity and the price of success. I deal with it myself sometimes, even creating my videos online. It's interesting to note, but science fiction has come a long way in general, and with film specifically. Following the end of the Second World War, the fascination with the wonders of science and the horrors of it became a topic for many, and sci-fi films became much more prominent and popular in the 1950s and 60s. There were many great films of this period, though they were mostly seen as cheap spectacles by critics and the film community in general, and weren't really viewed with high regard. During the 1970s, a film movement known as New Hollywood was reaching its peak. Inspired by counterculture, many young filmmakers began to break traditional Hollywood styles of filmmaking and experimented with many new methods. This introduced us to many talented directors who are still with us today. Woody Allen, David Lynch, and Martin Scorsese, to name a few. This era brought many classic individual films, and major studios eventually tried similar techniques. Some of these films were science fiction, but it wasn't until George Lucas' hit Star Wars arrived that science fiction became the new big thing. It has been cited that the origins of sequels, franchise building, and brand recognition in film really boomed with Star Wars, and to a lesser extent with Spielberg's Jaws. In the following years, studios would try to emulate this style of marketing in film, with science fiction playing a prominent role. This brought about an end to the influence of many standalone films in Hollywood. Naturally, not all films became part of a franchise, but the concept was finally being emulated. Simply put, due to the success of Lucas and Spielberg, everyone wanted to emulate them. Star Wars and E.T. were colossal hits. The success of these films helped really boost interest in the Star Trek franchise again, giving them a film series and essentially saving the franchise. The 1980s could very well be considered the height of science fiction film, blending the genre with action and horror. Aliens, Predator, Akira, The Terminator, RoboCop, and the works of John Carpenter and David Cronenberg would gain major prominence. The 1990s continued with Total Recall, Ghost in the Shell, Independence Day, Stargate, Dark City, The Iron Giant, The Matrix, and many others. Ironically, though, science fiction would be overshadowed and ultimately lumped in with geek franchises, and superhero films in particular. The rise of superhero films, comic book movies, and YA adaptations often were sci-fi influenced, but with slightly different demographics in mind. Naturally, not all these types of films were bad, but the height of thought-provoking science fiction seemed engulfed by superhero films, especially following the Marvel Studios' expanded universe formula. In order to achieve success, directors would aim to take on big projects to make names for themselves. Some examples are Duncan Jones's Warcraft movie and Edgar Wright's influence on the Marvel's Ant-Man. Both films present different results for the problems faced by bright sci-fi directors. Warcraft was a passion project for Jones, and there was some great effort put into bringing the world to life on screen. Duncan had gained a name for himself for his super low-budget independent film, Moon. Moon was a well-received return to basic science fiction with profound ideas explored with minimalistic special effects. He then followed it with another unique sci-fi, Source Code. Naturally, a creator may aim to go bigger with each project, but Warcraft was lacking the unique atmosphere and profound ideas found in his solo films. Warcraft may very well have some profound ideas in its mythology, I don't really know, but much of it was probably lost to the visual spectacle. If Jones had more of his own freedom, we may have gotten a fantasy story with a bit more substance to it. The studio's money forced him to give in to their influence. With Ant-Man being a major passion project for Edgar Wright, and much of his input being in the film, the frustrations with the studio ultimately ended with him leaving the project. The film was a success, but it may have been even better with Wright in more control, as he did have a lot of great experience with sci-fi in his own film, World's End. Few directors are successful enough to make their own studios, though. This is a simple fact many creators will be forced to struggle with throughout their entire careers. However, there have been a notable amount of popular and unique sci-fi films over the past few decades that weren't part of a massive franchise. Some examples include Under the Skin, The Fountain, Monsters, The Road, Super 8, Chronicle, Safety Not Guaranteed, Cloverfield, Edge of Tomorrow, Donnie Darko, Sunshine, AI, Ex Machina, A Scanner Darkly, Looper, Snowpiercer, Primer, District 9, Her, and Children of Men. The list may seem kind of small for a couple decades, but science fiction still has a strong presence in film and television, and has heavily bled into the bigger franchise films. It may seem like Hollywood is becoming less interested in creativity and more in money, but there is enough good sci-fi and good movies in general out there that I wouldn't give up hope. Life moves in cycles, and it's only fitting that science fiction would succumb to another type of genre or a type of filmmaking. I like to be optimistic. In our current age, it's becoming more likely for young sci-fi creators to make their own low-budget films and market them online. If you have an idea and get some investors, you can make films through fan funding campaigns with no studio interference. Naturally, there are money limitations, but the vision of the creators is less likely to be corrupted. I like to think that anything is possible. Good science fiction films do exist, it's just that sometimes the directors need to take on other projects or wait for a good time to try their own. At one time, Spielberg and Lucas were both young artists struggling to meet the demands of studios themselves. With enough time and talent and a bit of luck, they transcended to become kings of sci-fi cinema. To quote a certain android, big things have small beginnings. Alright everyone, this is Merlin signing out. Stay magical.